It's all about perception. You can perceive something and it imprisons you, or you can perceive something and it opens a door and sets you free. So what we want to do is look at something in the Word. So I'm going to give some scripture for this, and then I'm going to unpack it a bit, which I think will help better understand something. Because there's been this vacillating storm about this for about at least 5 to 10 years. And God really began to speak to me about this and started to give me a greater understanding, because I've always desired. I kind of seen it in part, but I desired something, and now I'm beginning to see it in a much greater way. So let's jump in. The Father asked me one time, he goes, there's a foundation, and it's the beginning of awakening to what I call absolute truth. So there's what's true, and then there's what's absolutely true. And absolute truth in the early days of the church, the body of Christ, it meant the living word. The living word was the absolute truth. And so there's the absolute truth, and then what's true is what I believe in the moment. It could be my experience. You stomp on my toe, and I'm having pain in my foot, and that's true to me, right? But it may not be the absolute truth if I figured out that it was actually an energy field, and that was just a reactor telling me that. Now, that's not really a good explanation, but it is true that we are energy, slowed down energy, or spirit slowed down into matter is what we are. And so if we understood there's what's true, and what's true to me today won't be in 5 years, may not be in 6 months. It's like as God awakens me from step to step on the ladder, we'll call it the staircase to heaven. Everybody loves the stairway to heaven. So it's another step. I have to let go. When I step up from one step to the next, I got to take my foot off the previous step, and I'm no longer there. So it's no longer true to me anymore. Was it true at the time? Absolutely. Was it good for me? Yes. Is it now? No. I have to keep going, like St. John of the Cross. If we're willing to want to know, we got to go into the unknowing. Unknowing means letting go of what you know in order to attain what he knows. And we won't get it as long as I keep myself in a safe, secure place of knowing what I know right now or what's true to me. That's imprisoning me. It's all important because they're all steps. I can't get to the top of the staircase without walking up the steps.
Yeah.
So everyone's important to get me there. But the point of it is to get there. It's the same as, let's say we're going to take a trip to Toronto. But we get to Shakespeare and we get out of the car and we're all excited and we're there. And we're like, this is nice, but like seriously, this ain't Toronto. We're not in Toronto. We had to go through Shakespeare to get to Toronto, but we're not there. And so we don't want to stop. And it's the only thing that'll stop you is pride and what you think you know. So that's why St. John said, to enter unknowing is to come to a place of knowing all things, because it's in the mind of Christ. So the Father said to me, he asked me, he said, there's this foundation, and it's who am I and who are you? You need to answer these questions for yourself in order to be able to let go and trust me and walk with me. Right? Mm-hmm. So if God is my Father, your Father, and he's spirit. He's the Father of spirits. Okay, he's not the Father of carnality, flesh. Because we think of flesh as matter. But remember, matter doesn't, according to Einstein, doesn't really exist. It's just slowed down. Right?
Yep.
Slowed down spirit. He's the Father of spirits. And he is unconditional love. Now remember, it says God does not change. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So is God ever not unconditional love?
No.
No, he's not. He's unconditional love. I am his son. You are his son. Therefore, I am a son of God, a Ben Elohim, son of the Most High God. This is a divine being of light and of love and of light. This is a revelation. A metanoia must take place for me to live in absolute truth in the light instead of in darkness. So I got to go through a change of mind. A metanoia from the mind of carnality or man-made constructs to the mind of spirit, the mind of Christ. It's important because we've been grounded out by looking the wrong direction. Light is spirit and darkness is carnal or fleshly. Mind of Christ, mind of man. Okay, so we kind of got that as the base. We are sons of God who don't know it because we've been distracted in delusion through what we see and feel with the five senses instead of who we really are as spirit, divine beings. So Romans 13:8 says, owe nothing to anyone except to love one another. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. Now, do you hear what it's saying? It's saying to fulfill the law.
Yeah.
We're going to look at this. Now, a natural man does not accept the things of the Ruach Elohim, for they are foolishness to him. He cannot understand them because they're spiritually discerned. So when we understand that the law of God is spirit, it's not what we think it is. It was handed down through Moses, and at that point, they created a set of rules and regulations to, as a form to try to be good. But they don't understand what it was. It's of the Spirit. But it's incredibly important. Jesus himself said, if you think I've come to set aside the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets, you're mistaken. I've come to fulfill it and bring to perfection all that's been written in it. So he didn't do away, he fulfilled. Now, if he's perfect, if I'm perfect, there's a reason he's talking like this.
Yeah.
Proverbs 4:23 says, so above all, guard your affections, the affections, of your heart, for they affect all you are. Pay attention to the welfare of your innermost being, for from there flow the wellspring of life. How important is the heart? Guard it. And this is Solomon, the wisest man we know in history other than Jesus, God in the flesh. Right?
Yes.
Guard your heart, because out of it is what's creating the wellspring of your very life. It just doesn't mean it's keeping you alive. It means out of there, it's creating your life. Proverbs, from another Young's literal translation, says, above every charge, keep your heart far, for out of it are the outgoings of life. New Living Translation, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the very course of your life. So then it would be fair to say that your heart is actually creating your life. What's going on in your life is being created from your heart. So Solomon's saying, dude, guard it. It's important. This is important stuff. He says to understand this. So wisdom is telling us something. Then look at David. David says in Proverbs 4:23, he goes, 23:7, for as has the thought in his soul, for as a man thinks in his soul, so is he. So what's in your mind, and we talked about it a moment ago, memories.
Yep.
As the man thinks, so is he. So right now, who you think you are is the sum of your memories and what you're believing in your heart, and you're creating your future right now.
Yeah.
It's not God that wants to create that, but something has to change. Thus the cross. The cross came for a reason, to show us the way. And if we want to know the way, it's just not, hey, the way. The way is to somewhere. We're going to Toronto, not just to Shakespeare. It's the way somewhere. Where? To the Father, to the top of the stairway to heaven.
Come on.
This is where we need to go. But something's got to change. Something has to change. We have to move from sin consciousness, which is separation from God, living from the outside in the carnal mind of man, which is, we'll call it the house of mirrors. That's what it is. A house of mirrors out there. And we get caught in one argument over here in this mirror and this mirror and that mirror, and we don't know all the time. It's delusions. Delusions of the mind of man. And because we're believing them, we're in our minds, then our minds are telling our hearts, and our hearts are creating it again. And we're living it like over and like a loop. And it constantly goes on. And there's a way to get out of this. But we have to understand one of the things of separation is what rabbinic for sin. Also, it's called missing the mark. If you miss the mark, you're going down the wrong way. You're doing something completely wrong. You're missing it. You're missing what's there. Okay? So it's separation from him that caused sin, sickness, poverty, and death.
Yeah.
It is union with him that causes one to become a whole being, or better yet, are you ready? Conscious of being whole. Because, see, you already are. Our problem is we were duped. And we think we're trying to get whole, to become like Christ, when you already are. But what are you living? You're living out of what your mind is telling you, what you're believing, in other words, and then what you're actually dictating out of your heart that's actually creating your world.
Wow.
Remember, you were created in the image of God. You are like him.
Come on.
So something has to change. You want to know why you're in the world? Think about it. We need to ascend. This is why we're here, to learn this. Everybody wants to jump to create universes, and they can't even control their own hearts and what's coming out of it. So I think maybe there's got to be a plane where we can actually come out of this. It's 2:12 says, all who sin, listen to this, outside the law will perish without reference to it. Oh, what does that mean, Lord? That means it's in place whether you believe in it or not. Oh. And all who sin under the law, they'll be judged in accordance to with it. Now, what does that mean? It means that the judgment happens where? Here. As I'm doing it, because it's a law. Now let's look at this stuff. We perish because of darkness. Mm-hmm. And if we're under the law or in carnality of serving from a flesh mind, we fall under this judgment in this life, and the one to come as a man thinks. It's what you think. So there's a higher dimension, which is light, which is a frequency. And there is unconditional love, which is what we call heaven.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you understand these, this isn't hard to get in the understanding of, if we looked at radio waves, if we looked at TV waves, this room's full of them right now, and so is your house, all around you right now. But remember the old, what do they call them? CB radios? You had to turn the dial to get to a particular channel or frequency, and you could hear people talking on that frequency, but you couldn't hear the other frequencies. Same with the TV. The old tuners, if you turn it to channel, One channel, you get that channel, you turn it to another channel, you get the other channel, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's use channels for a moment. Levels of frequency, there's the lowest one. We'll call those channels dimensions.
Yep.
And people live within that dimension. All they can see and hear is in that dimension. But is there other channels? Absolutely. They're called dimensions. And you go up, and God is He's in all dimensions. He's called a multi-dimensional God in the universe or the universe. Right?
Yep.
So God is reaching out to man in all of these, but there is a place to come up here. Remember, we'd always hear him say, come up here. You know, that's what he's talking about. So unconditional love and light are powerful. So Romans 7:7 says, what then can we say? That the law is sin? Of course not, Paul says. Yet I did not know sin except through the law. Hear this? I did not know sin except through the law. Remember back there, dying without knowing about it? Or living, not being aware of it, and yet you're still suffering from it. I did not know except through the law. I did not know what it is to covet except that the law said, you shall not covet. So think of the law. We've read it before. It's like a servant or a teacher that comes to you, takes your hand, and wakens you to that sin consciousness, which is basically this: you are not this. You are not a beast.
There you go.
A beast nature. The mark of the beast, it's a beast nature. You're living not as a beast. You see all these things? This isn't you. And so it takes your hand. You become sin or separation conscious. And then it points you to the Calvary. And you're looking at this man dying on the skull. It's the mind of man. He's revealing to us something about us. And he is the light of humanity. And he's establishing the stairway to heaven for you to get out, to come through the dimensions back to the Father into who you really are. Remember, it says to become conscious of who we already are.
Yeah.
So the law basically was awakening us. And once you start walking in love, the law doesn't even exist. It's so far below you, you don't even know it's there. If I love my wife, so I don't think I'll go home and kill her tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to rob her when she's not looking. I'm going to steal her jewelry. You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
It's like the law is like in the wedding vows, but I wouldn't even give them the wedding vows. It's so below. But it was like an alarm system because we were all caught in the house of mirrors, and something started to shake the mirrors, and we went, what is going on? What is going on? It's like the Matrix, and the cat glitches. That's the law. The cat glitches, and that's the law waking us and going, whoa, what's going on here? Right? That's what the law was. But it's still established. We always talked about as young Christians that the, generational curses. What about generational blessings? Do you realize that thing was created like a double-edged sword, that if you went the one way, it brought these things upon you to help you turn around, but if you went the other way, you got your socks blessed off. So what was that? It's to help you. It's the teacher. It says, there's this saying, and I love this: when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And there's teachers on every step. They'll appear. You don't see them prior to that.
Yeah.
Like the Beetle, I always talk about a Volkswagen Beetle. You don't see them. You buy one. Well, you know there's a couple out there. But you buy one, and they're on every corner, and you're going, where did they sell all these Volkswagen Beetles, right? It's because you weren't looking, but they were there. So is the truth. There is incredible revelation. If you don't have a chance to listen to Justin and Abraham speak about the history of some things that are going on, there are people hundreds of years old on the planet that believe this stuff. Immortality is where we're going here, guys. Immortality. We're not trying to get immortality. You are immortal. It's your belief system that your mind has power.
Yeah.
It's your belief system that's messed up, and it's killing you.
Come on.
We are immortal. God created us in his image. He said, don't do this lest you die. Don't do what? Look the other direction, forget about me, and then start believing those mirrors. And next thing you know, right? What are we doing?
Yeah.
So, to awaken to the separation in our minds and who we are not, which we were speaking about earlier,
Yes.
and then come out of slavery, out of the sin consciousness, out of the sin, which is separation, which is missing the mark, to a higher order called the Spirit through Christ. Right? So Romans 7:6 says, in the New American Standard, sorry, it's the New American Abbreviated, but now we are released from the law, dead to what held us captive, so that we may serve in the newness of the Spirit, not under the obsolete letter, acquaintance with sin through the law. It even says acquaintance. An acquaintance. We weren't even married to it because it's not who we are.
That's good.
So law is our friend to show us separation and bring us to serve a higher order, not carnal, but spirit. Now, I love Romans 7:14 says, we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold into slavery to sin or separation, missing the mark. Right?
Yeah.
Galatians 2:19, for through the law, and I'm giving some scriptures because it's good for us in the body of Christ to understand how these things work so that we can start to get some freedom.
Yeah.
So Romans 7:14, or sorry, I did that one. Galatians 2:19, for through the law I died to the law, that I might live for God. I've been crucified with Christ. You see, I've been separated from that separation. Something happened at Calvary through Christ. He shows us something. Psalm 119, verse 70. Their heart has become like fat, David says, without feeling. That means they have no feeling. They're not spiritually awake. I, he says, delight in your Torah. I delight in the law. Why, David? 119, uncover my eyes. I behold wonders out of the law. You see, it's a springboard into something far greater. We don't want to get stuck in the law, living there, because then we become imprisoned to it.
Yes.
But when we see what it's there for and we come up out of it, it's a whole new day. Romans 8, verse 2. I'm going through some scriptures. Hope you don't mind here to develop this a little bit, and then we'll get a little more into where it goes. For the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. I could read this whole thing, but I don't know if it's really necessary. It delivered you from the sin, which he condemned in his flesh, yada, 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 right? But look at what that said. There is a law of the Spirit of life. There's a new law on a higher level.
Yeah.
We have to understand law and how it functions, and that it's a great thing. We have understood law as a bad thing because it put us in prison, and Jesus set us free, and we're so ecstatic about being free, and that's fantastic. But we didn't understand because it's spiritual. We don't understand that, in fact, we could look at how gravity works. The reason there's a law of gravity in this room right now, or you and I be up against those tiles trying to do this meeting,
Floating around, yeah.
right? That's a law. Is that a good law or a bad law?
Seems pretty good.
Okay, all law's good. We just don't understand it. It's the problem. Is it didn't come to imprison us, it came to set us free. When we understand the law and we live according, like David said, then we begin to enter into the fullness of Christ. He fulfilled the law. He didn't send it away. He fulfilled it. What does that mean, Father? What does that mean? It says, for those who live according to the flesh are concerned with the things of the flesh. But those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. The concern of the flesh is death. The concern of the Spirit is life and peace. Now, I don't know about you. I choose life and peace, immortality, and living in the very being of God.
That's good.
Right? Instead of choosing my ways through my grid in the mirrors of delusion and staying in death.
Yeah.
And it's all around us.
Come on.
So, there's laws. Now, I want you to think of these as good. There's a law of sowing and reaping, and it's not about money. Okay, it's not to get rich off of and rape the bride.
Yes.
It's not for that. Okay, but sowing and reaping is a law. And I'll explain it. In other words, it's trying to help you change your mind, because if you love, then love comes to you.
Yes.
If you judge, judgment comes to you. If you hate, hatred comes to you, and so on.
Yeah.
That's what sowing and reaping is God is telling us there's a higher law in the Spirit than keeping these laws down here, like, oh my gosh, don't kill your brother. Well, if you knew who your brother was, I don't even think that's an issue. So there's a higher place of seeing and understanding. That's where we want to go. So he puts these in place as generational blessings, if you will. They're blessings so that I will begin to be like my Father.
Yeah.
Therefore, I will begin to reap like him.
Mm-hmm.
Father, you remember, is a vine keeper.
Yes.
He came, and what did he do? He sowed a field, and he's looking to bear fruit of his field. So, what do we want to do? We're kings in this universe, this land, this earth.
We're sowing a field.
We're sowing a field, and we will reap what we sow. And the cross is not going to help you, because the cross is there to shine light into your skull, to tell you a revelation so that you will metanoia and begin to follow and reap the blessings of the eternal. This is spirit, not flesh.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's there. Now look at Jesus in Luke 10. He goes, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, your soul, your strength, and your mind. That means all of you with intent, loving the Father and your neighbor as yourself. Now, when it says neighbor, it doesn't mean my Christian brother. No. It means everybody on the planet.
Yeah.
Right? Now, it's really crazy when you look back and realize that there were 613 laws. And then there were 10 commandments. And then here's Jesus. And he gives us 2. And he says all of the law is wrapped up in these 2.
You'll fulfill the law with these 2.
Yeah, that's right. So he's showing us something now. It's like, in other words, he's taken this camera lens and he's slowly defining it down. First they had 613, and in the flesh they're trying to run around and keep all these things. And then all of a sudden he just fine-tunes it through Moses to 10. So now you got 10 laws. 10 laws, right?
Yeah.
And then the same thing. But it still is showing you some revelations again to take you to Calvary. The light shines. He goes, there's two. These two. And notice what they are. Both of them are about love.
Yeah.
Both of them, because that's the highest well, there's a higher frequency, but that's the highest frequency that we're aware,
Yeah.
right?
Come on.
It's like God created the heavens and the earth. There's many heavens, dimensions, and then there's where God comes from, which is above the heavens, because he created the heavens, therefore he's above and through them all.
Come on.
So, and he said to me, I won't go into that whole story right now for sake of time, but he'd said, I desire that all my children remember, be by my side. So where's that? That's above the heavens. But they will not all come. So we have a choice. We have a choice if we want to go there. But if we want to go there, we got to be willing to be unknowing to know. We got to be willing to walk up the stairway to heaven as the Father carries us up. You don't do this work at all, by the way. You can't figure this out in your mind. This is being willing. You just have to be willing and love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your strength. Are completely undone, right? And you have felt in those days at the Highlands there at the church, the power of God coming on us. We've seen nothing yet. This is where we're going. How I got picked up like a Marriott in that room.
Yeah.
In the glory.
Marionette puppet.
In the glory of God.
Oh, yeah.
One new person in place of two. In place of duality. In place of separation. Establishing peace. So there's only one person in the whole universe.
Yeah.
We're all part of him. So whatever you do unto your brother, you do unto me. You say you love God and hate your brother, you're lying to yourself, man. You don't even know what you're talking about.
Don't even know what love is.
No. Well, you don't know God.
Yeah.
Because God's standing in front of you, right? We don't get this. I don't care what he's doing. That is God. Sacred unity.
Come on.
Be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, pleasing, and perfect. Many parts, one body. It's a revelation again. We are all one in God. Now, this oneness in God goes beyond anything our minds can really understand at this moment of what that means in spirit. It's so unified that we're one. One mind, the mind of Christ, the mind of the Spirit. So one that we understand what he meant when he said, love your neighbor as yourself. It's about love. Love is the highest road that comes through the heart. It's the way of light into sacred unity. So remember, love then must travel through the heart, which, remember, the heart is literally creating your future. So your future can change, by the way. Through the heart, it's the way of light. What's light? It's revelation into absolute truth. I will send you the Spirit, and he will lead you into all truth. So it's the light now coming because you're now walking in the frequency of love and the revelation's coming to you, and you're accessing the one new man, sacred unity and understanding. Jesus said in the word God in Aramaic was sacred unity. That's what he's bringing us into. So the greatest is love, unconditional love, which is the Father. It's who the Father is. You can say he's a lot of things, but seriously, you'd be quite shocked because he is not made in our image,
Come on.
right? He is, I quoted this earlier, his delight will be in the fear of Jehovah.
Mm.
And he shall not judge after the sight of the eyes or reprove after the hearing of his ears. So, fear was a delight. What does that mean? It means he turned away from the house of mirrors, the appearance of what he heard and seen in the house of mirrors. Fear is to see through the eyes of the Father, which is spirit, not through appearances in the carnal world of illusions in the mind of man. That's what the fear of the Lord is. It's a beautiful thing. It's metanoia, isn't it? Metanoia. We could call it, the fear of the Lord or metanoia. It's the same thing. I read this. Oh, yeah. I should throw this in. I read this, another translation I believe it was in the Aramaic, that talked about John's encounter with Jesus on Patmos. And when it says he fell as a dead man, it doesn't say what I've been taught.
Yeah.
What I've been taught is that Jesus walked up to him, and because he was in such fear of God, he fell to the ground as a dead man, right? That's what we've been taught, that kind of a perception. Correct?
Yes.
Well, you see it throughout the Old Testament as well.
Yeah, like he was overwhelmed by fear and he fell at his feet, yes.
But what in the original, in the translation, it says this, that Jesus walked up to him and he fell like that. That was because that was John's fear. It wasn't what Jesus was projecting. And Jesus said, don't be afraid. Get up. It's all good. In other words, it wasn't a projection coming off of love.
Continue.
Wisdom and love is the way of Abba. Wisdom and love. Religion can be wisdom with no love. It has a love of doctrine. You see? Or love can be like a doctor who says, I really care about how you're feeling and where you're at, but I can't really do anything about it. So he has love, but he has no wisdom on how to fix the problem. Right? So you need both. You need wisdom, Proverbs says, to tie wisdom around your head, right? So wisdom and love are very important. When you let the love of God pour through you nothing fears you, and no harm will befall you. There's a reason why, let me think of his name now. St. Francis had animals walking up to him and communicating with him telepathically. Why? Because love was emanating from him, and they recognized God. They recognized the love. It says the whole creation is groaning, waiting for what? Sons of God to do what? Remove death and decay and bring love back into the existence, which is what they know. They're reacting to us. If you have fear, the dog is afraid, so it bites you. When one contacts God's ideas, he must give them out in order to receive the benefit from them. That's why one of my selfish motives for doing this. He must allow it all to do the same. I must allow all people to do the same, that they may grow and develop as he's growing. So we're all doing this. We're growing together as we bring the bread on the table, and we're eating this bread right now. We're partaking of it, the manna that's coming from heaven. What we're doing is we're receiving of the revelation as it unpacks to you, and then you will give it to others. It's like a water wheel. The water falls in the water wheel on these buckets.
Yep.
And then the next bucket pours, and the next bucket pours into it, and it gains momentum and power through it, right? That's what's going on.
Come on.
Is momentum. It's so that all men, we realize, are one man. The mighty works done by Jesus can and will be done by all. You will see there's nothing mysterious about these works. The mystery is only in man's mortal concept of them. It's the way we're seeing them. Nothing is a mystery once you see it. And I always think of John G. Lake. God didn't just give him an ability to heal. He showed him how he did it. So he was fully in the understanding of how to heal the sick. And it wasn't a mystery. And it wasn't mysterious or hooky spooky. It's that we don't know. So and back to that whole thing. There are a lot of things we're told. Don't look over there. That's evil. And the fact of the matter is, it's your freedom. The church held back the fork for 400 years. They said it was evil. When man will learn to let go of self-delusions and vanities, he'll realize his ignorance and his littleness. Then will he be prepared to learn. He'll realize that the proud cannot be taught. He'll know that only the humble can perceive the truth. Become as a little child, a mindless infant, remember?
Yeah.
Letting go. Remember that youth is God's seed of love planted in the human form divine. That's inside you guys. Youth is the seed of God planted in the human form, and it's divine. Indeed, youth is the divinity within man. Youth is the life spiritual, the life beautiful. It is only life that lives and loves, the one life, eternal. Age is unspiritual, mortal, ugly, unreal. Think on that. Fear thoughts, pain thoughts, grief thoughts create the ugliness called old age. Joyous thoughts, love thoughts, ideal thoughts create the beauty called youth. Age is but a shell within which lies the gem of reality, the jewel of youth, called immortality. Immortality is living in the present with the Father, with no past, meaning living out of the memories of carnality and the trauma of who you're not, and projecting that memory into the future by expectation, and then you're creating death through the mind of man, but becoming who the Father says you are, that is already written and is and shall be as you metanoia to spirit into the mind of Christ. That's why we're turning the other way. It is this ladder of consciousness revealed in a vision to Jacob, which each of us must climb before we can enter that silent, secret place of the Most High, find that we are in the very center of every created thing, one with all things, visible and invisible, in and one of the omnipresence. In Jacob's vision, he was shown the ladder reaching from heaven to earth, out of carnality into Christ. It's in the mind. It's the journey's in our mind. We didn't go anywhere, but we're creating all this. Don't eat of that. So where are we? And who are we? We're love, and we dwell in love himself right now. You didn't leave him. You turned around. You can't leave Christ, because Christ, it says, he created all things are in him, through him, by him, and for him. So if all things are in him, they've never not been in him. So our Western mind has lied. This is biblical. This is the Bible, right? Yeah. Either it is or it's not. If we don't believe this, then throw the Bible out, man, because it's there telling you everything is in Christ. There's no separation. There's no us and me and him and him. We all are one in Christ. Christ is the multi-membered body of God, sacred unity. Jesus is the head of the body. We dwell in love himself. I'm almost there. Proverbs 14:12 says, there's a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. Now, I would say that's a busy highway. It's a very busy highway, isn't it? Remember, narrow is the road that leads to life, and difficult the way. Few are they that find it. Because we don't want to leave the house of mirrors. And we got told a nursery rhyme from the Greek gods.
Come on.
That it's okay. The angel of death's going to come and take you to the Mount Olympus, and everything's going to be good. And there's a God there. He's sitting on a big chair. And if you're good, you get in, or this fire is going to consume you and burn you to death. Oh, wait a minute. You already died. Oh, you mean you're going to torment you in hell and burn forever in a fire? Oh, well, how is it that I'm going to burn in a fire if I don't have a body? Math, do the math. Oh, then what is that torment, that fire? Oh, it's the all-consuming love of God. And if I'm tormented, it's because I have not accepted that love for me or for others. And I am consumed with my shame and my guilt and the lies and the condemnation. And I'm consumed and I'm stuck there until finally I'm willing to let it go and believe that God has not changed. Ben Sirah says, before everyone are life and death, whichever they choose will be given them. I don't know about you. Let's choose life. What the heck? Let's go against the stream, like the, what do you call it? The fish that swim upstream, right?
Yeah.
I can't think of what it is at the moment. My brain's in this. And they live.
Salmon swim up.
They go up there and they bear fruit, don't they?
They spawn, yeah.
Yes. So, hey, there's life upstream. Just because the highway's going the wrong way, this is the only time I'm going to tell you. If that's a one-way street, it's okay. Let's go the opposite direction. Okay?
Yeah.
So, let us ascend Christ to the Father who's life, to be in this world, but not of it, not of the carnal world. Remember what it says? I live and move and have my being in him, Christ. Now, I want to quote a couple of things at the end here. I want to tell you about a higher law. One that is the highest law, I believe. This law, and remember laws, if you live with this law and understand it, it will be an incredible blessing to you. The law is called the law of one. It's the highest law. Let us remember that we are all one. Love your neighbor as yourself. We're all one. In this unity lies love. Inside this unity, the sacred unity, is love. In this unity lies light. So if I begin to believe and put my intent on this law, then love will start to explode in me, and I will start to come into the revelation of the truth, and the veils that I created, not God, will begin to disappear in front of my mind, and I'll begin to see unity, love, light, and joy. Remember, I think it was Justin Abraham that said joy is a serious business in heaven.
Come on.
It's one of the high spots. Unity, love, light, and joy. Unspeakable joy, full of glory. This is the heart of evolution of the Spirit. This is the evolution of a spirit being. As we come into the understanding of the law of one, which is unity, that we are one in union. It's quantum mechanics in the spirit realm.
Yes.
Even the scientists are starting to find it now. But we don't have to wait for them to peer through the microscope to begin to get this. We can understand what Jesus said. Love God with your whole being and your neighbor as you. So if I love my neighbor as much as I love myself, well, we got to love ourselves first, correct? Then what happens? Everything changes, man, on the planet. I guess John Lennon was onto something. Imagine.
He was seeing something.
Yeah, that's right. I used to think and was told that song was bad. It was about one world government and yada, yada. And now I see, wait a minute. I was running on a treadmill one day. The Spirit of God fell on me when that song came on. And I started to cry and realized, oh my gosh, John, thank you, man. Imagine. There is no heaven above us or hell beneath. Imagine no borders, no countries, no war. Were you getting it yet? This is God. This is unity. This is love. This is God. This is the heart of the evolution of our spirit. That which is infinite. Now this one, you're going to have to chew on it for a while. That which is infinite cannot be many. For manyness is a finite concept. The infinite is one. The finite is many. The separatedness in the mind. So to have infinity, you must identify or define that infinity as unity. Otherwise, the term does not have any reference or meaning. In an infinite creator, there's only unity. Thus, the illusion is created of light, or more properly, but less understandably, light and love. It's a fraction of the light. It's not the light. We're moving through the light. How do we know? Let's look at another picture of it. How about this? We take white light. It's one light. We shine it through a prism. And out the other side, we see different colors. Okay. Are those different colors separate from the light? Or are they all the light just shining through a prism? You see? If God is light, then we are all just coming through the prism, and we are just parts of that same light. We are all one in unity, sacred unity. I don't see yellow fighting with green. This is our problem. We don't understand infinity. We don't understand God who is one. We don't understand what this means. We've created some dude on a chair. Give me a break. If he's an omnipresent God in the universe, do we not understand Eastern? That's just Eastern mind that says he has all authority based off of a king in Egypt or another country that sat on a throne. It does. I've said it before, but it fits really good here. But I won't get it all the whole story. I'll just get to the point. There's a girl, when she was young, got whacked by God, went out of her body's walking with Jesus, sees him in a garden, sees his eyes, comes back out of it in my living room, and I'm sitting there. Her and my wife and a couple other people, and we're in the glory. I mean, it was intense. In my mind at that time, God's throne was right above our head. That's how intense it was. We were in a time of the rollout at the end of the Jesus movement, so we were in a revival. And so I'm in this, and she comes out of it, and she's sitting there, and she looks at me, and she goes, oh my gosh, she goes, I was walking with Jesus in a garden, and his eyes, they were amazing. I said, wow. And she goes, yeah. She goes, did you know that he's in you? He's looking at me right now through your eyes. Now, I had no grid work for this. I'm like, wow, that's really, I mean, I'm really drunk in the time and the glory, so I'm all good. But I haven't got a clue what she's talking about.
Yeah, you haven't. Yeah,
I didn't know what she was telling me was love your neighbor as yourself because you are Christ. She was seeing Christ in me, looking at her. Now, when will we get to the place of sacred unity that we will love our enemies because it's Christ?
yeah,
They're in the house of mirrors. But if I don't start to love unconditionally, then I'm still blind and still held in the trapped in the mirrors. It isn't until I understand that Christ is all in all. It isn't until I get and start to move into that understanding and intention that I'll begin to experience what she did in that moment with no understanding as a baby that got saved 10 minutes ago. And here she is saying something so deep and profound that there wasn't anybody in the West that would understand what she'd just said. Nobody. I spent 35 more years till I even begin to get the concept drifting around in the room. And I'm still not seeing what she's seen. That's what I want to see. Now tell me, once you see this, right, you see the white light shining through the color. Then at that point, we're going to understand what Jesus meant by that law. Love your brother as yourself because you're joined as one in me. We're all one. And this is a unity we don't really know about yet. I've not met anybody, but they're on the planet. There are people that have made it through the difficult way. They're immortal. But we can keep looking the wrong direction through the house of mirrors, or we can stay at those beautiful churches that Peter wanted built, which is forms. I'm not talking about denominations. I'm talking forms.
yeah.
Or we can keep offering things to the sacred calf, that golden calf of our creating, whatever it is. Or, whoa. Woo! Jesus, come on. Or we can begin. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. I want to see Jesus. I want to see Jesus. High and lifted up, where his whole train fills the temple. Me, you, everybody.
Come on.
The whole human race. That's where God's going here. Reconciliation of all things. Reconciling us to what? To who we are as him in the earth. All is one. And that one is love, light. Light, love. The infinite creator. What do we mean, love, light, light, love? Is because light brings you into the love, and love will bring you into the light. Because they're both frequencies of the same thing. The light is piercing, called the living word of God, piercing my heart, and it's bringing me into the love. Or I'm pushed with the love of God, and not like happened to me in the bathroom. Boom, the liquid love of God, which put me on a pursuit of light. Always to the same thing. Remember, I said I'm going back to my future. That's what we're called to do. Access the love and the light of the Father so that we might know who is the Father. Who are we?
Staring into a mirror.
Yeah. Bless you guys. Any questions or references? Or I'm signing for the deal. I'm kind of sliding into the pool now, so I'm yeah. All righty. What do you see? Anything?
No, I don't think so.
I love the Father. Oh, that's good.
I don't know if you guys heard that, but Siri just said she doesn't have an answer for that. So,
Yeah.
not even Siri knows.
Oh, man. And wild things will start happening to you once you start, entering the twilight zone of the Spirit. Wild things happen to you. I was talking about this guy with Ed Norleen on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm talking about him, I turn, and he turns around in this restaurant and walks towards me. Isn't that wild? I went, whoa, that's cool. Yeah. So, hey, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I can't wait to talk to John the Baptist, John the Apostle, Enoch. I mean, they're all walking around us, right? It's just they're on a dimension, a layer, a frequency of light that we don't see. But they have some insight for us, right? They'll have some great insight for us. And Jesus himself.
Come on.
May want to have a wee chat.
Might want to have a chat.
Yes. But first we got to believe. Right?
Come on.
And then what's he say? Nothing is impossible. All things are possible to him who believes. So if we would begin to focus in our mind, love the Lord our God with all our heart, and then begin to change our mind, and then change our heart to the intentions, then it gives a doorway for Jesus to show up. It's not about hope. Hope won't get him here. But if we know in our hearts, then we will. It's happened lots. We hear stories all the time, right? And those people aren't special. We're all equally the same. It's just that we're creating.
Come on.
So let's create love for one another and for the Lord. Let's change the human race in our time. While we are in time and space, we can change it by living in unconditional love and under the law of one. Under the law of one. We can do it, guys. You can do it. I believe it. Bless you. It was a good night. I hope you might want to listen to this more than once on the whole law thing and understanding law as an incredibly good thing, a gift, a blessing, even though it cost Yeshua everything to break open our minds to be able to. It comes in the natural, in the mortality, to break open our minds on the skull in order to show us to metanoia and go the other direction to spirit, so he can unpack what this is all about so that it becomes a blessing.
Come on.
Not a curse, a blessing. So, thank you for being on the journey with us. And we shall see you next week.